Hi Rishen, I'm Kalvinder. How are you doing?
Hey Dalvinder, I'm doing well. What about you?
Good man, good. I'm from Gurgaon. Where are you from?
Perfect. So I live in Bombay. I'm a Mumbaikar.
Awesome, awesome.
Yes.
So Rishen, so good to be to have you here. Today, my attempt is to figure out or to help our audience understand what is the journey of a typical product manager looks like, right? How does one become product manager, right? Because there's no degree for it, there's no diploma for it, there's no certificate for it, right? So how does somebody realize that he is a product manager, right? I believe it's an accidental profession. What do you think about it?
No, I think you're bang on when you say it's an accidental profession. You're absolutely right when you say there's no degree, there's no diploma, there's no way for you to formally certify yourself as a product manager. It's just something that happens along the way. I think it's more of a natural fit when it comes about. You can call yourself a product manager. So it's that kind of a thing for me too.
Right. So Rishan, which company do you work for? What products are you building?
Perfect. So I am currently working for this company called CleverTap.
Okay.
It's a user engagement and analytics platform.
Okay.
Right? So we are building a product that helps businesses understand who are using their mobile applications, who are the customers who are using their websites, let them analyze this information, and then send automated marketing campaigns basis this information. So that's the product that we're building.
Got it. So I think so in analytics, in the analytics world, I think there are other competitors, right? So there's Mixpanel, there's Google Analytics, and there's bunch of others, right?
Whole bunch.
Right. So where does CleverTap come out? Like where does it fit?
So that's actually a great question, one that I answer quite often, right? So when you traditionally look at the space in which we're operating, right, there are two types of businesses that you see. You've got these businesses that are operating in the silo of analytics. Right. So when you took the likes of Mixpanel, you took the likes of Amplitude, you took the likes of Google Analytics, which is probably the first one that came out there.
Right.
That's one silo or one vertical that you have. On the other side of the town, right, or on the other side of the fence, I should say, you've got a bunch of people that venture into engagement.
Okay.
So you've got the likes of, you've got Mo Engage, you've got App Boy, you've got Vizuri, you've got a whole bunch of these other folks.
Right.
Now, where CleverTap is different is that we combine these two worlds of analytics and engagement.
Okay.
Right? For us, we build one cohesive engine that combines the best of analytics and combines the best of engagement for you to take informed decisions about your business. So we combine these two things. That's wherein we're different from the two. Now, this is obviously the philosophical difference that we have.
Right.
There is microfiche difference also in terms of features and point offerings and so on and so forth. But that's a story for a different day.
What's your? I mean, we'll like to dive deeper into CleverTap, but because our agenda here is slightly different, I would like to know what are the top 3 features that you love about CleverTap.
So, the first and foremost feature that I like is something that we started building actually quite recently.
Okay.
Which is our data exploration features, right? So up until now, whenever people were analyzing data inside of digital platforms, they were kind of reliant on point tools. So for example, you had your funnel analysis, you had your cohort analysis, you had your single event analysis. Right? We have actually ventured on a layer that's slightly meta to that, or slightly higher to that. So we have built out these features, one of which is something called pivots, right? So for those of who are familiar with Excel and have played around with pivot tables in Excel, we've kind of borrowed from that concept and put it on top of your digital data in real time.
Nice.
So for example, let's say you're an e-commerce company, right? You could actually run a pivot analysis on your entire transaction history that's happened over the last, let's say, 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. Which could be, thousands of data points if you're a company that's just starting up, or hundreds of millions of data points if it's a company that's been, successful for the time being. Right? And what we'll be able to do is we'll help you derive insights like, create a cross tabular analysis for me that shows me product name, which has sold by city, by each hour of the day for each day of the week across the last 3 years. Right?
Oh, so whether I have integrated CleverTap now or whether I've integrated 1 year back, it doesn't matter, right? It captures all the information right from the starting.
Absolutely. So, that's one more thing where we're slightly different from other, products. We don't consider ourselves to be a user analytics or a web analytics or an app analytics kind of product. We're a general analytics product.
Right.
So any and all information that you have available to you that matters to you, you can kind of bootstrap your CleverTap instance with that information and you will have all of your data from inception till now.
Very nice. Very nice. That's pretty awesome.
So, yeah. So pivots is one such data exploration feature that we've built. Yeah. Another one is something called flows. Right.
Okay.
Now, flows is a feature that we built out, in fact, interestingly for our product management audience. Right.
Okay.
So, the nature of the job of product managers is that we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
To which we need a lot of answers, and we need those answers fast.
Absolutely fast.
And
yes.
A lot of the times we are reliant or almost crippled by lack of information, right? We
Absolutely.
just don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, so you can't solve for it. Right? So one of the questions that everyone has in mind is, if someone is using my business, wo kar kya rahe? Or what are they doing inside of my app, or what are they doing inside of my website?
Yeah.
When you're dealt with this kind of a problem as a product manager, the first thing that comes to your mind is that, I've identified my top 5 funnels, and I'm going to track those 5 funnels.
Sure.
That's your perspective of what customers are doing in your business. You assume they, view a product, add that product to their cart, and then they buy it.
Absolutely.
Anything they're doing in the middle, you have no idea of.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah.
So we built this feature called flows. And in flows, what happens is you define a start point in your user's journey and an end point in your user's journey. So for example, if you're an e-commerce store, sticking to the e-commerce example, because that's probably the most digestible one.
Yeah.
Let's say your start point is someone viewing a product and your end point is them buying the product.
Okay.
You just ask CleverTap the question that between viewing the first product and making the first purchase, what is that all my users do?
Whoa.
So we will actually paint not just an event by event basis ke log kya kar rahe, but also a timeline of it. So you'll come to know at day 0 someone views a product. 30 minutes later, or in the next 30 minutes, they've actually priced.
It's not event like, oh.
Exactly. So it's event and time together, because from that first product view till that first purchase, for some people it might be minutes. For other people it might be weeks also. You just don't know.
Exactly. And actually you can figure at that point of time, like what is the distribution between these two things. And you can actually then either try to reduce that time gap between these two events and improve the conversions. That's fantastic.
Exactly. So one of the most cool things that helps you do as a product manager is it helps you set realistic goals for yourself.
Right. You have something measurable now.
You have a baseline. So you have a baseline that that today from first product view to first charge, it's taking me X amount of time.
Right.
How can I move towards it becoming X minus Y, X minus Z? I can move towards that then.
Absolutely. That's fantastic, man. So pivot flows.
Yes.
Brilliant.
And the last one is something called recency frequency based segmentation. Right.
Okay.
So now this is something that we're probably one of the first few people to come with in the market. I'm not sure if there are other people that are doing this right now.
Okay.
But I am an ardent believer that the 2 most important markers of a customer, for you to actually behaviorally analyze them, so to speak, is how recently they've used your business and how frequently have they used your business.
Got it.
So I think these 2 markers, they kind of form the baseline on which you can analyze your users.
Right.
So what CleverTap does is we will segment your entire user base based on how recently or frequently they've performed an action that's important to you.
Got it.
For example, again, sticking with the same old e-commerce example, but actually let's make things a little different. Let's say you're a music streaming application.
Okay.
So the behavior of a user that's important to you is someone, let's say, streaming music.
Right.
So you'll just come into the CleverTap portal and you'll say that based on people streaming my music, can you analyze them? That's all you have to say. You have to pick a point event or a point action. And based on that, you just have to tell CleverTap to analyze your users. And we will automatically segment your users into champions, hibernating users, users you can't afford to lose, new users, based on how recently and frequently they've used your business.
Wow, man.
So we'll automatically segment it into those 10, 15, self-created segments that we have. And once they exist in those buckets, right, you can start targeting communications for them. Okay. Like, for example, if you've got a champion user, for those users, you don't need to send discounts. You don't need to send offers.
Exactly. You just need to send something else. Yeah.
Exactly. And for example, if you have a user base that you can't afford to lose, that means basically people who've been very frequently active, but they've not been recently active.
Right.
So you have to send them something that entices them to come back to your business.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you have these segments that are kind of auto-defined for you, and you can send them targeted messages, and you can move them from one group to another. These are the 3 features that I think are kind of cool now, because we've moved away from point features to more exploration solutions. So that's the direction that I think.
So exactly. So this ones I can understand, like the general theme that is coming out is more to help people discover interesting patterns
Exactly.
instead of putting all the cognitive load on the product manager or on the marketer that, hey, I'm challenging you, here is all the data, figure it out, right?
Exactly.
And CleverTap is trying to be a friend who is saying that, hey, I have some idea about what's happening, right? And this is what it is.
Exactly. So
Fantastic, man.
yeah, it's actually, that's an interesting point that you brought up, right? So in most other platforms, so the interesting thing is that I in my previous life was actually a consumer of tools like CleverTap. So I used to consume such tools. I used to work for another company wherein I was on the other side of the table. So I was a product marketing manager. So I used to consume information from all such tools. And what I used to find most overwhelming is that, shit, that I've got millions and millions of data points over here. Now what do I do? I know that these are 5 things that are important to my business because मेरे को पता है transactions are important, मेरे को पता है page views are important. So
Right.
I'm looking at them, I'm analyzing them.
Right.
You don't have that subtext and context over there. You don't know what else to see.
Correct. And what are the other things that might be of really of much importance? Right?
Exactly that.
Awesome. So Rishen, I think I'm blown away by the features, to be very honest, because I thought that I know CleverTap really well. I'm going to relook. Okay. So you spoke about your past journey, right? The past life,
Yes.
right? And you have 3 years of experience, right? So why don't you talk about your journey of becoming, from what you have spoken about, being a product manager of a analytics heavy product. I think it would be interesting to know what data background that you come from. Right? What made you a product manager for data heavy, analytics driven? Like what PhDs have you done? Right?
I wish I'd done some PhDs, man. Probably life would have been easier then. But no, my journey is actually, I got extremely lucky in some ways. Fate had a huge role to play into where I got.
Okay.
So I'm an engineer by profession. So I'm actually a chemical engineer by profession. So right out of college, I actually worked in a chemical processing plant.
Okay.
So I used to work in petrochemicals, and I spent about 8 months over there in a chemical plant.
Right.
And that's when I realized that, dude, this isn't for me. I cannot do this. And fortunately, unfortunately, again in India, when you don't like what you do an MBA. So after I figured out that, chemical engineering probably isn't the path to go down for me, I thought, let me take a slightly more business approach to life and I do my MBA.
I'll become a chemical manager.
Exactly. Now, while I was doing my MBA, right, I kind of got exposed on how I should say to the digital world, right?
Okay.
So I got extremely enamored by how websites are working, how mobile applications are working, how businesses are leveraging digital platforms to actually, so businesses today, right? If you're building something in India, let's say you're a mom and pop store also, the only reason you're limited to selling in India is because you want to sell in India. Nothing is stopping you from selling globally, right?
Right.
And the reason why you can do this is because of, digital powers available to you.
Yeah.
Right? So that kind of interested me to no end. And to kind of venture deeper into that, I started working for this company called Price Baba.
Okay.
Right? So Price Baba is it's a mobile phone price comparison engine. Now it's a product price comparison engine. But back when I was there, we used to basically help people understand which phone to buy and where to buy it from.
Okay.
So if you had in mind that, I want to buy the shiny new iPhone 8,
right,
we'd be able to tell you that, in stores around you, and by stores around you, I mean offline stores, it's available for 50,000. Okay. Whereas online, you can get for 51 or 52,000 on different stores. So we give you, complete price visibility of the product and also feature visibility in terms of reviews and what's good about it, what's not good about it.
Got it.
So that's what we used to do, right? Now, the kind of business that it was a price comparison engine. So these kind of businesses, right, they get a lot of viewership.
Right.
So they tend to become viral online. So a whole bunch of people start, using them online. So you get, consumers by the order of millions.
Got it.
And even we had like close to 5.5-6 million users every month, right? Okay. Now, when you have so many people using your website, you kind of want to know why they're using your website. And you kind of want to know what they're doing on your website.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And when you want to do that, the de facto tool that all of us used at that time was Google Analytics.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So that was wherein I started getting exposed more towards the analytics side of things.
Okay.
And that was my first taste of a digital analytical product, and I was blown away by Google Analytics. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was blown away with what I could do over there. Like, instantly they could tell me how many people have seen my website. I could segment and see how many people are belonging to a particular segment have seen my website,
Right.
which pages have they seen, and I was completely blown away by that.
Right.
And it was actually during my course at CleverTap, wherein Anand, who is the co-founder of CleverTap, where I'm working, during my course at Price Baba, it was where Anand, who is the co-founder of CleverTap, kind of approached us, and he said that, this is what we're looking to build. At that time, it was called WizRocket. So this is this platform that we're looking to build, which is, going to combine user analytics and engagement. And it sounded amazing, right? Mm-hmm. So we're like, what the hell? Let's give it a shot. And we kind of integrated it. And that's when I started seeing the information, which I was first used to seeing in Google Analytics, also flowing into this, new WizRocket platform.
Right.
Now, at the time I started using it, I was probably one of the first few people in the world who ever used this tool called WizRocket. It was quite bare bones, right? There wasn't so much in it. Right. But even then, you could see the tremendous difference that's there between CleverTap and Google Analytics.
Right.
You could see the potential that was there, and it kind of blew me away completely. That's when I actually went and spoke to the founder of Price Baba, my boss over there. His name is Ankur. And I was like, I'm in love with this tool. I can't believe what they're doing. You have to get me a referral over there.
Okay.
I actually asked my boss to get me a referral into another company. And being the gem of a human being that Ankur is, he actually did get me that.
Awesome.
And in my first conversation with Anand, right? So at that time, WizRocket was, tiny. They were like 12 people, right? And of the 12 people there, 11 were engineers who were building the product. So Anand kind of asked me, he's like, sure, I appreciate the fact that you're interested in working with us, but what will you do?
Yeah.
So he's like, code to likh nahi sakta. So I'm like, the engineering degree is, for sure right now. There's no coding that's coming out of me.
Right.
So he was kind of like, join us and do anything business that's required.
Okay.
So that meant I did a little bit of customer success. I did a little bit of sales. I did a little bit of documentation. I did a little bit of evangelism. I did like a whole bunch of stuff. But that's kind of how I entered into CleverTap.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, exactly. Now, at CleverTap, right? So I was kind of doing a whole bunch of things. So there was no defined role that I had in mind, right? But my primary focus was I was doing a lot of things, but my primary goal was to help, or my primary KRA, you can call it, was to help customers use CleverTap.
Right.
It was to show the benefit of CleverTap to prospective customers, right, and show existing customers how to use CleverTap.
Right.
And the reason why they felt I would be a fit for this role is because I was using CleverTap and I was deriving benefit from CleverTap. And I had moved from another tool to CleverTap because it was serving me well. So I just had to tell other people what I felt.
Correct.
It's kind of a brilliant role for me.
Right.
And while I was doing this, right, I got exposed to how customers run their businesses and a whole bunch of customers, right? So the likes of Sony, the likes of Book My Show, I kind of understood how they use a tool, what are their expectations from a tool, and what more do they need.
Right.
So the natural transition then for me was that, I should actually move into the product management side of things and actually help deliver the features or help deliver the offerings that these people can benefit from.
Absolutely.
Because that was my domain experience.
Right.
But that's kind of how I went from, being a chemical engineer in a factory to a product manager in a tech company.
Fascinating story, because you cannot imagine, right? You cannot imagine a factory worker, if I put you there, right? So a factory worker to being a product manager in an analytics company, which is based out of India and San Francisco.
Yeah.
And, building competing head on with Google Analytics and mixed panels of the world.
Yeah, so it's been quite a ride.
Yeah, and I think the few things that I can extract from your journey, the do's and don'ts, right? I think the biggest do here, the biggest thing that has helped, out of the entire accident or the entire entropy that we are seeing here, I think the few things that we can extract is, one, through and through, you were either a user, right? You were either a user of the product that you finally decided to contribute towards building, or you were a voice of the customer, right? Yeah. You were listening to the customer through and through, right? So interestingly, broadly what you were doing was sales, right? You were doing customer success, which is also called support admin, which is also called customer happiness. There are a bunch of very innovative names that are coming. But effectively, yeah, you are the person who's talking to the customer.
Yes.
And even that person to dream to become a product manager is not, it's not common, right?
Yes.
Right, they're not considered to be a product manager, because then there are other things that are expected from a product manager.
Correct.
So it's fascinating that, yeah, one, you are a voice of customer, so you are able to when probed, you were able to exactly tell, or you were able to exactly tell, direct that, hey, this is how the users are using, and this is perhaps what we should be building, right?
Yes.
And the second thing, because you were a user also, you were able to understand the customer's pain point also really well, and you could figure out where exactly the happiness lies. Right?
Correct.
And the don't is not expect all your bosses to be like Ankur. Right?
Yeah, no, that's the luck factor I spoke of.
Yeah, so don't expect everybody to be like Ankur. So me and Ankur actually go a long way. I didn't know that you have worked with Price Baba.
Yes, yes.
So my previous company, Tushki, was part of the same batch at 500 startups as
Oh,
Price Baba.
awesome.
So, 6th batch, 2013.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we go a long way. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes.
Small
So you know exactly when I say that Ankur was a gem of a human being to actually refer me.
Absolutely. So good, man. So we covered, CleverTap, yes, your journey, which is fascinating. Yeah, seriously, man. I would like to understand, like, so it's been 3 years since the transition, right, from the factory to analytics.
About 4.5 actually.
4.5. Wow. So, what do you think are the challenges, or I should say, what are the skills beyond the fact that, yeah, you were talking to the customer, you were the user, so you became a product manager? No, that I would not believe that is the only two things that are required, right? You need much more than that.
Yes.
So, what are those things, according to you, beyond these two things, which helped you get noticed, right? This just helped you get noticed,
Yes.
right, by Anand. But what are the other skills which you think contributed to you become a product manager and remain as a product manager?
Yes. So you're right over there. The two things that I did have with me was, past experience of being a user,
Right.
and then being someone who was, so to speak, as you rightly mentioned, the voice of the customer. But those two skills just gave me eligibility. They didn't get me the job. They just made me eligible to apply for it, so to speak.
Right.
Or, as you mentioned, they made me visible to Anand for that, right?
Right.
But I see product management as a cross-functional role, and cross-functional in the truest sense, right? The primary skill set that I think is required in product management is communication.
Right.
Everyone has ideas. I don't think there's a dearth of ideas in the world, right? Even someone in the customer success team has ideas. Even if someone in the engineering team has ideas, everyone has ideas.
Right.
But you need to be able to communicate that idea and the value and benefit of that idea to all stakeholders in an organization as a product manager, right? If I come up with an idea that, hey, we should be building feature A, I need to be able to sell that feature internally. So you need communication skills, and I would say to an extent, it might sound funny, but you need sales skills as well. You need to be able to sell internally, and trust me, selling internally is a lot harder than selling externally.
Much harder.
It's a lot tougher because internally people know the skeletons in your closet. Outside of the world, they don't. So you need to be able to communicate your vision. You need to be able to communicate the benefits of your offering, and then you need to be able to sell it. And I say sell it because, pure communication is not enough. You need the typical sales skill. You need to be able to follow up. You need to be able to hear a no and then still keep going.
Still keep pursuing, yes.
Yes, you need to be persistent. So, communication, sales, persistence. I think these three things are quite, fundamental in a product manager. And beyond that, obviously, the cornerstone of product management would probably be, a mixture of technical cognizance. So you need to be able to understand the technicalities of a product. That doesn't necessarily mean that yaar meko Java aata hai. Yeah, or I need to know how to code. That's not what it necessarily means.
Yeah, that just helps. It just helps.
It helps. Yeah. It helps. So think of it as a jetpack, but it's not your only way to fly.
Right.
So it kind of gives you a boost.
Right.
but you need to have technical understanding.
Right.
And you need to understand the business impact of your technical decisions.
Right.
Right. So you need to marry these two together. Just building something great is not enough. You need to build something great that people want, and more importantly, people will pay you for.
Absolutely.
Right. You can build a kick-ass product that everyone uses, but if no one pays you, you're kind of screwed.
Absolutely.
Right.
Right.
Like obviously you've got your exceptions like WhatsApp and whatnot, who are again, venturing into monetization now.
Right.
But these are some of the skills that I find important. So, communication, sales, assistance, and a harmony of understanding tech and business together.
Right.
So I think these things are quite, essential in becoming a product manager. Without this, even if you do become one, you won't last as one.
Right. So I think, got it. So I think what you're trying to say here is beyond the understanding of, you need to have some business sense, or at least some understanding of how do you translate strategy or goals into, into possible features, prospective features, right? Which you're going to then propose.
Yes.
Whether it's your own original idea or whether it is crowdsourced from your own team or from the customers, that doesn't matter, right? That doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Being able to pick that, hey, this idea looks interesting. Let me explore this. Right? I think, yeah. So beyond this, yeah, communication, converting those ideas into a good presentable pitch, and then you to the engineer that, hey, this is good. Trust me, this is good. No, don't trust me. Trust the data. This is good. Right?
Exactly.
So those things are critical, right? And I think for those skill sets, to put it in a very broad term, is soft skill, right?
Yes.
Having a soft skill of how do you pitch things together, how do you put things together, pattern matching, and having a systems thinking that, okay, this block Tetris खेलते थे ना पहले. So
exactly.
Kind of playing Tetris with almost every idea that, okay, this block looks like this, let me put it here.
Yep.
Right? Yep. Sounds good. So for people who want to become a product manager now, you did your MBA, right?
Yes.
Do you think, is there a necessary requirement to become a product manager for people who want to become product manager now?
I don't think so at all. I don't think my MBA has anything to do with me becoming a product manager. It might have been a circumstance that led me down this path, but I don't think it's a prerequisite to being a product manager. Right? I think you've actually summarized what I said really well. It's a combination of certain soft skills and hard skills. Your soft skills are your ability to communicate what you believe in, and your hard skills would be your ability to understand the technical space you're working in and the business space that you're working in.
Right.
I think those two things are of paramount importance. I don't think your formal education, so to speak, leads you down this path. Because if there was something that made you a PM, people would do it. Right? Agar koi degree hoti, to people would do it.
People would have done like in throngs, right?
Exactly.
Got it. So MBA is not required, and I think BTech is required just to know what not to do.
Yes. So I again understand that BTech isn't a necessity to become a product manager.
Right.
But I think it helps in some ways.
Right.
Right. Like for example, now again, I've done my bachelor's in technology, and it's not that I'm not a programmer by a long shot. Like palindrome likh lunga, theek hai, but it stops over there, right? It stops at your college level programming, maybe a little bit of puzzle solving and so on and so forth, and that's about it. But building highly scalable systems and solutions is not my cup of tea.
Right.
But engineering kind of exposes you to a thought process that helps in product management, in my opinion. Right?
Correct.
It kind of puts you down that path wherein you have to become extremely self-aware in some ways. Right. You have to be able to put your hands up and say, "Hey, boss, meko ye nahi aata, explain this to me."
Absolutely.
You have to be able to say that.
Right.
And that kind of comes to you in engineering in some ways.
Correct. And I think another thing which I attribute, I mean, I am an aerospace engineer, right? Nothing to do with what I'm doing right now. But I think one of the things that I attribute to my learning, my education, is it trained me to be a solution thinker, right? To be able to break down vague problems into specific tasks. Okay, that if I'm not able to solve this, or this is the problem, how do I solve it? Okay, this is too big a problem. Let me further break it down. And you finally have one smaller itsy bitsy problem that you say, okay, I can solve this. And then you solve this, then that helps in this next problem, and you're able to navigate your way to a bigger problem, right?
Exactly.
right? I think that's one of the most critical learnings that you get in your engineering, right? People ridicule typically their education quite a lot, that hey, I'm doing XYZ, but that had nothing to do with my education, right? But I believe that the degree that you got, that may have not have helped you in the core jobs, right?
Yes.
You're a mechanical engineer, but you're doing something else. You're doing marketing, right? But definitely that the problem thinking,
It aligns the thought process.
the thought process that was taught to you, hammered into you for 4 years, whether you liked it or not,
Exactly.
that is helping you become a better professional now.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with that, right? So in some ways, engineering did give me this, the ability to stand up and say, "Meko ye nahi aata,"
Right.
or the ability to, fail but still be persistent,
Right.
or the ability to, face a whole bunch of problems that are coming at you from all directions. It does give you that kind of thought process.
Right. And I think,
same way,
sorry.
Sorry, I interrupted there. But the same way, my MBA also did help me in some ways to understand the business side of things, right? The financial components, understanding that gross margin is important, understanding, so it does help over there as well, right? Like as product managers, you're responsible for the profit. See, at the end of the day, sure, you're building features, but your core job is to take something and make it profitable. So you're responsible for it in all ways, the profit and loss, everything. You need to make it marketable. It's all your headache at the end of the day. So in those ways, the MBA also does help you. It's just not required. It's helped me.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Absolutely. And I think one more point before we talk about dig a little deeper into your journey.
Sure.
I think another important thing that I attribute to my education, or to people who ask me about these questions, is most of the things that we'll be doing in your professional life, whether it's product management or it's marketing or anything else that you're going to do, there are going to be unknowns. There are going to be plenty of unknowns, right?
Yes.
Right. And these unknowns are actually they're very expensive. Like, right? They're very expensive. They can cost you your job. They can cost you your reputation, right? It can cost you a lot, right?
Yes.
So knowing how to navigate and how to figure out which unknowns are easy to solve, which unknowns are not so easy to solve, I think that is something which I attribute heavily to my education.
Yes.
Figuring out and being comfortable in those unknowns. That okay, I don't know 10,000 things, but I'm fine with that.
Yes.
Let me solve these 3 things. These are the most important things to solve right now. Right?
Correct.
Fantastic, man. So I would love to understand, according to you, so you spoke about skill sets, right?
Yeah.
So somebody who wants to jump into product management now, right? What are the top 3 things they will suggest that they should do starting today? Somebody who's in college, who is just about to graduate, whether it's BTech or whether it's MBA or whatever it is. Either those people or people who are, let's say, in operations or non-product roles, including developers, designers, and they want to transition into product management role, right? What are the 3 things or few things that you would like to tell them?
So I'm not going to say the cliched thing that be technically aware of the space you're going to go into and whatnot, because that's a given. You have to do that. So I'm not even going to say that, right? One thing that I would recommend to everyone is go and sell something. At the end of the day, like they say, na aukaat samajh mein aati hai tab, like it's true. You need to go and sell something, man. You need to understand. So, I have this theory in my mind that whenever someone is talking to you, you either see them as a cost or a benefit. Whenever they're talking to you in a professional sense, right? Okay. So if someone comes up to me or I receive an email, so I'm like, is this going to cost me something or am I going to benefit from this, right?
Now, it's a good framework, huh? Cost benefit.
Sure. Right. Now, most of the times when a salesperson is coming to you at first, right? Unless they're selling you something brilliant, you see them as a cost. Okay, shit, I'm going to have to pay this guy.
Right.
And it's the job of that salesperson to move from shit, I have to pay this guy, to the other side which says, shit, this guy's a benefit for me. So I think that's an important lesson for everyone. So we need to go and sell something, right? If you're in college, probably intern somewhere, get some kind of business experience. But more importantly, if you're already working, let's say as a designer, or you're working, in any other role in your company, you need to sell something to someone. I don't mean go up to a customer and sell them a product. You've got salespeople for that. If you get to do that, well and good. But sell something either internally or to your management or to your peers. Sell anything.
Sell a concept. Sell an idea. Sell something, right?
Exactly.
Convince a group of people who otherwise will not get convinced.
Exactly.
Convince a group of people to follow what you're saying. Because I think that's one other thing, right? As a product manager, nobody reports to you, right?
Yeah,
So
it's management by
you have
influence.
to convince others, right? You have to sell others that, hey, what I'm selling, what I'm talking about is actually brilliant, or it is actually viable, and it can make us a good amount of money.
Exactly.
So yeah, otherwise the developers have no incentive and no reason to actually follow you.
Exactly. So the first and foremost thing I would tell everyone is just go and try selling something. It helps. It helps.
Right. It helps.
Being told no is good.
It's yeah.
Yeah. Second one is going to sound silly, but practice writing, man.
Okay.
You need to like there's no two ways about that. You need to be able to speak well, sure.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, it comes down to PRDs, it comes down to business requirement documents, and so on and so forth. You need to be able to translate your vision into written matter that can be consumed by other people easily.
Right. Without your presence, without you having to sit down and explain.
Yes.
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
So you need to practice writing, right? And the last one would probably be that it's not a skill set, but you need to learn to lower your expectations, right? So you're going to be turned down more often than not with most of your ideas, right? But you need to be able to come up the next day and give some other idea.
Right.
So I think that the third one would be probably self-awareness or lowering expectation. I don't have a good word for it.
Persuasive.
Persuasive, sure.
Yeah.
Persuasive in some ways. Yes. So I think these are 3 skills.
Right. I don't know. Consult speak. If I give a consult speak to this, optimistically persuasive.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
No matter how people say to you, I'm going to come next day with few more ideas and I'm going to push the right ones.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And actually, let me throw in a fourth one. You need to be diligent. You
Yeah.
need to be able to follow through with your things.
Absolutely.
Right. If you don't do that, it's not happening, man. Because as you mentioned, right, as a PM, no one reports to you. Right. But you have to get work done from a whole bunch of people. You have to get work done from the design team. You have to get work done from the graphics team. You have to get work done from the tech team, from the business team, the sales team, the marketing team. Exactly. You have to get work done from everyone. And, no one's accountable for doing that work for you.
Exactly.
Right? So you have to follow up, man. You have to follow up a lot.
Exactly. And sometimes I do feel that, like, why would some moron do this? Why would somebody take up this role? Right? Why do you want to do this? Right? Nobody's reporting to you, right? And you are essentially running pillar to post to get a product out.
Yeah.
So I was asking these questions to myself like a few years back, and I was like, no, but the satisfaction.
Exactly.
Being able to produce something which people are using and being able to claim that. Whether you can claim it or not doesn't matter, but yeah, this is a fact that hey, I built this. Right? I built it. I think it's magical.
Exactly.
Right. Amazing. I loved your answers. Those selling, writing, persuasiveness, and diligent.
Yeah.
The skill sets which people say that hey, I have this skills, right? I can sell. Right? But yeah,
No, man, you've got to prove it, not to anyone else. You need to kind of prove it to yourself. You need to sell and be able to stand up and say to yourself that, yes, I sold. Or you need to write something down and, just be able to say that, what shit, this piece of paper which I've made makes sense.
Right.
That kind of helps.
So what do you think? So there are quite a lot of people actually who reach out to me to help them with their career. They want to become a product manager or they want to progress as a product manager, right? And they want to know like what can they do and how can they become a product manager, right? So my typical answer to them is build something. Okay, build something and launch it, right? But the job starts there, and you build, launch, and get some customers so that the product is used, right? Do this, that will actually expose you to the world of product management. And only then you'll actually realize that do you really want to do it? One. And if you want to do it, then how difficult it is.
Yes.
Right? So then the typical answer that I get is, but hey, I cannot code. Hey, I cannot design. Right? To which I typically give an answer that you don't need to, right? You can actually, today, you don't given the APIs, the number of APIs that exist, the number of systems and platforms that exist, you just need to understand. You should be able to devote a week, 2 weeks to understand these things together.
If you tie it together.
If you're a system thinker, you should be able to put things together and create something nice, right? Which people need or people would be happy to use, right? What do you think about this? What do you think about this approach of, if you want to become a product manager, do a side project, pick up something, build something out, instead of just focusing on, that, hey, I've done analytics or I've done something and now I can become a product manager.
No, I actually, I agree with you wholeheartedly over there, right? So, my first experience with product management was actually quite sheltered, and I got extremely lucky in doing so. Right. So while I was working for Price Baba, the ship of price comparison was kind of sailing by itself.
Right.
And that's when, it's when you're at your most comfortable that you can start taking risky decisions.
Right.
So they kind of decided that, let's venture into a new space.
Okay.
And they said, let's try building something from scratch.
Okay.
And again, Ankur kind of trusted a large part of that onto me. So he actually gave me the opportunity on building an entire concept myself, doing the POC of it myself, and kind of doing the entire thing end to end myself. It unfortunately for me failed. It failed miserably, and how. But that was the first time I realized that, I want to do this again, even though it failed. Right. I want to do this again. And the project then was, we were a price comparison website and we had a whole bunch of users. But there's only so much you can monetize in terms of price comparison. You've got some ads you can show people, you've got some affiliate revenue, but that's about it. There's no direct payment coming from the customer.
Correct.
So we wanted to have some kind of monetary interaction with the customer. So we thought, why don't we start a market for second-hand phones?
Sure.
And so P2P market of second-hand phones. Yeah. If you're coming to buy a new Pixel 2 XL, maybe for $15,000, if you get a second-hand one, you might be open to buying it. Yeah. That was the thought that was in our mind. Right. The other thing that I would, second your opinion on, wherein you're saying build something, it doesn't have to be something, completely left of center and new that you build. You can try something that has been done before also.
Right.
And trust me, it's tough. Like there are hundreds of people that have done sales of second-hand mobile phones.
Yeah.
But I failed miserably at it. There's so much more in it than I ever thought. Right. Like how taxes work and so on and so forth. Second-hand market, it's ridiculous. So I failed miserably at it. Like I gave a good 8 months to the project, 7.5 months almost, but it failed. Right. But it was literally at that point I realized that, shit, it's fine. I want to do this one more time. I want to give this one more time.
I'm not going to rest till I build something which is, well known.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Right.
So yeah, no, I agree that, build something, and, you're right. You don't need to know how to code. You don't need to know how to design. You've got hundreds of people out there that have built products that solve this for you, right?
Exactly.
You've got Balsamic where anyone can go and design. You've got, our good friends at Aptuse who've built a drag and drop app builder for yourself.
Absolutely. Exactly.
You can do anything. Yeah.
Exactly. You can build something out, and it's not too difficult in nowadays to, put something together, right? And, spend a couple of days and figure out how things work. It doesn't,
exactly.
The amount of confidence that you'll get. And that is exactly what I keep telling you. It doesn't matter. What matters is how confident you get or how self-aware you get about, your capabilities.
Yep.
Right. And that will help you multifold when you actually go for your interviews.
Yep.
Right. So you have spent like 3-4 years now in building products, or at least in the ancillary space. What are the challenges you see in terms of product management or product ecosystem in the country?
So one thing that I would, it's something that I am now finding out that it does exist is the product ecosystem. So for the longest time, I thought that there is no ecosystem. I thought that there's no help out there. But one of the things I'm realizing now is that, if you go ask looking, there are people to help you.
Right.
But what I think is wrong with the country is that people don't know that there are people to help you. So even though there is a vibrant ecosystem, it's kind of closed. It's a closed circle, and it's, the same people helping the same people.
Right.
So it's not open enough as an ecosystem right now. So that's, basically the fundamental availability of real human beings to help you in terms of resources. Like there are a lot of articles online which you'll get. I'm not talking about that. But just being able to walk up to someone and tell them that, what, meko life mein ye problem hai. Have you faced this before? Or is there something you can do around this to help me? That is something that I think is lacking to an extent.
Correct.
Yeah.
This wasn't planned, and yeah, I mean, what you brought out is actually bang on, because this is something which I've also personally faced year and year again. You know that a lot of things that we're doing, right? Uh, at least at the higher level, that might be completely unique, right? We're doing something completely different. We're building something which has not been done before, but the micro modules or micro parts of it might have been done before.
Yes.
uh, for example, how the payments work or how something works, right? At that point of time, it makes sense to actually just point out or just simply ask somebody that, hey, this is what I'm building. If you have built this, what are the do's and don'ts?
Exactly.
Or how did you figure out this, right? And so on. So Stack Overflow is something that exists, and I think that has made a lot of programmers. A lot of programmers are programmers because of Stack Overflow, and not because they were, right? I became a dev programmer. In fact, when I faced some major challenge in my startup, I became a programmer overnight by just slogging my ass off and depending on Google and Stack Overflow. And I was able to figure it out. I was actually within 2 months I was able to turn around the product, build it out,
Wow.
then picked up Android, built iOS, so on. But that's a separate story.
Wow. Okay.
So thanks.
That's the story I love to hear.
That's a Stack Overflow, right? So I built out this community, right? Just launched it like 2-3 weeks back. It's called, right now it's a temporary name, which is VOC, Voice of Customer, voc.talvinder.com. It's a closed beta right now because I'm just getting some people in and getting some engagement out. Because one of the issues with communities typically is that people are afraid of asking a stupid question.
Yeah.
A problem that exists right from our childhood days, right? Nobody wants to be seen as stupid by asking these questions. So at least one um, that apprehension should go away, and that's why it's a closed group. But fascinatingly, you won't believe, when I actually just made a normal post on LinkedIn that, hey, this is a Q&A portal, Q&A board like Stack Overflow, but designed for product managers, so that they can get answers to specific job related problems, right? Day-to-day life. Within 3 days, 3 or 4 days, I got 100,000 views to that
Wow.
post, and it had nothing. It just by like four line post. That's it. 100,000 views.
That's some serious validation for a problem.
Yeah, and 100,000 views, and I was like, what? And this was the max I have ever seen, right?
Wow.
I was seeing like 100,000 views, and I was like, and I was getting comments, and I was getting PMs, and people who knew me were emailing me, WhatsApping me. I was like, okay, this is a serious problem. Like, initially it was just something that I had created, and suddenly it became a serious thing for me. And I mean, I'm doing it completely as a community-led project. It is not meant to be monetized ever. Uh, but the resolve became even firmer that, yeah, this is something that needs to be put out, and product managers will definitely help get a solid help here.
Wow.
Sorry.
That's that. So I think it's exactly what you mentioned, right? So these kind of things, that is what I think is lacking to an extent, right? You don't have any good place to go and ask real people, point questions on problems you're facing and
Exactly.
expect answers. You don't have that right now.
Too much generic gyan is out there,
Exactly.
right? Which doesn't help anyone.
Exactly. Like you've got very pointed questions, man. Like it's not like, my question is not how product management works. It's literally like, how do I get something out from the design team which needs to be in this format? It's like those kind of things, man.
Yeah, how do I talk to my design team?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah. Very nice, very interesting. What I would like to understand a little more, and possibly my last couple of questions from you.
Sure.
What I would like to understand is, if there is like three things, somebody who is in the last year of his college, right? Or like the skill set like you spoke about, right? Great. So these are the skill set I need to acquire, which is, sell something, writing, be persuasive, be diligent, right? Uh, can you suggest one or two routes that somebody can take starting today? That, hey, start doing this, and let's say, or read these books along with that, and that should orient you in the right direction, right? Because it's also to do with design. For example, designers are taught design thinking, right?
Yes.
So people talk about design thinking, and people have a knack of design, right? But then again, design thinking is a very structured format. It's a structured process. And same goes to product thinking. People say that, hey, you have a knack of product, right? That what should be built, what should not be built. But then again, when you have to design a product from scratch, you need to have product thinking in place where where you can formally put things out that, hey, this is what we want to build for now, and then we're going to phase out, and then we're going to create a separate phase where we're going to create the next part, and so on, which is product thinking, right? uh, so what do you suggest somebody who is in the final stages, or final year, and he's just curious and wants to explore? Because in product management, internship is also not easy. You cannot just plug into a system and say that I can be productive. You cannot be, right?
Yeah, it's not happening.
Another major problem, right? Nobody would hire you.
Yep.
Right. So what do you suggest? What are the 2-3 routes that people can take?
So, the first thing, this is actually first a question for you. Do you think freshers can become product managers?
Yes.
You do.
Yes.
Right? So right out of college, you think someone can venture into the product space?
Yes. There are some important conditions though. For example, if you have built something, right, during college days, if you have built something, and like you said, if you have built and sold it, right, by selling it, I mean, you get some users in, right?
Exactly.
If you do that, yes, I think you have that product. You might need some coaching, you might need some hand holding, but yeah, you're there.
Correct. There or thereabouts.
Right.
Correct.
But if you've not done anything and you're jumping in, you are too risky a bet to jump in, because honestly speaking, you'll be directing the costliest resource in an organization, which is the developers and designers.
Yes.
You will be directing those costliest resources, right? So unless and until you have built something, it's difficult to be confident on your skill set.
Correct. So, I kind of echo that kind of a thought also, because, we've got a lot of people who've reached out. So we were recently hiring for a product manager, right?
Right.
And we had a whole bunch of people who reached out to us, and, out of everyone that reached out, I was surprised to see that not a single person was a fresher.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So more often than not, whenever we open up hiring for any role, we get a whole bunch of people who are actually freshers or in the final stage of college who apply. But the one point of interest that I had was that not a single fresher applied for the product manager role. And I would in fact say that the product manager role got the most amount of applications.
Right.
But still, there was not a single fresher. So the first thing what I would tell someone who is in the final years of college is that you can become a product manager out of college. So that's the first thing, just to get that out of the way. And I kind of echo what you're saying also. You would have to, I don't think there's any book or any formula of success that you can read, so to speak. There's no such thing. And there's probably some general knowledge that you can gain. So, find 1 or 2 products that you like. So for example, it could be Slack, it could be Stripe, it could be any product that you like, and just, see their product blogs. So all of these, large, companies, they have these product blogs. So just go through those blogs and kind of understand the order in which they've released features.
Exactly. And the thinking that has gone behind it.
Exactly. So it's not, Stripe is where Stripe is today because they've proceeded in a certain organized fashion together. They're purpose built to do what they're doing today. And if a feature comes out today, it was designed to come out today. It's not something that was supposed to come out 3 years ago and it came out today. It's not that kind of a thing. They've got a timeline in mind and they've designed for it to come out today. Absolutely. So I would recommend that you go through these blogs and understand why they've timed their offerings the way they've timed it.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's a very good point. Yes.
So I don't think there's any book that you can read, but I think you should go through some of these, follow some of these organizations. I know I do. I follow some of these organizations. So follow these organizations and kind of understand why they're doing what they're doing and when they're doing it.
So can you, it'll be great if you can share those blogs, those companies that you would like people to follow. Right?
Atlassian is one.
Atlassian is definitely one. Yes.
So you need to, so for anything in terms of, when it comes to building a global product, I think Atlassian is a model of success.
Absolutely.
And they're not quoting to be a model of success. They did it, right? So they went public. They are used by everyone. They are the de facto product management tool. Exactly. Right. So they've done everything right, in my opinion. Like, I'm sure they made mistakes and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But, in hindsight, it seems perfect. So I think Atlassian is one company you should look at and start from their archives. Like, don't read the blogs 2018 and back. Like, start from 2011 and come here. So that's one thing that I would also say.
That will show the naivety that, what we see that, okay, they're all perfect. They have whatever decision they took was right. They're not, like, but it helps in understanding.
Yeah. So Atlassian is one, Stripe is another. So the reason why I think Stripe is a good company to follow is because I don't think, so first of all, they're operating in a space that's difficult. I think, fintech, while it seems extremely lucrative, especially, in 2016, 17 and 18 in India, it seems extremely lucrative. I think it's one of the most challenging spaces for a startup.
It is.
Imagine going up to a bank, which is probably the most intimidating institution out there, and telling them that, boss, give me your APIs.
Right.
I don't see how a bunch of 26, 27-year-olds can do that, right? But they did do that.
Right.
So I think Stripe is another great company to look at how they're doing what they're doing.
Right.
So Stripe and Atlassian are more towards the successful side of things. A third one which I would recommend is more towards the successful side of things is this company called MailChimp, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So MailChimp I read more so for their design blogs.
Right.
So their design blogs are fabulous, right? So, the one thing that I believe is that great companies are consistent. And when I say consistent, I mean consistent in terms of appearance, consistent in terms of tone, consistent in terms of service. And I don't think anyone has shown the levels of consistency that MailChimp has shown over time.
Exactly. MailChimp is fabulous. Yes.
Yeah. So their consistency across the board, whether you reach out to them on Twitter, whether it's a support ticket you write to them, whether it's an article you read of theirs, or whether it's you just playing around in their products, it's the same in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So these are more towards the already model of successes that I would recommend follow. On the up and coming side, there's this company called Branch.io.
Right. Branch is good. Yes.
So Branch is another company that I think we should look at because they're kind of building, sure, now they ventured into attribution and whatnot. But when they started off with a service that most people weren't aware of, right? So most people didn't think deep linking is a problem.
Right.
So they first created that problem in your mind. And it's not like they created the problem. The problem was there. It's just that
So finally
people didn't have cognizance of that problem.
Exactly.
So they kind of made the world first aware of the problem and then they're kind of solving it and how, right?
Right.
Probably,
yeah.
So I think these are 4 companies that I would diligently follow.
Right.
And I do. And what I would highly, highly recommend for all of these companies, I make this a point, is don't read from 2018 back. Like start in chronological order.
Yeah, reverse order.
Yes.
I think I'll just add a couple of companies to this because I think this is a brilliant list.
Yep.
To follow. I think I'll add a couple of companies that I like to follow. So one is Intercom.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think Intercom writes probably the best marketing blogs I've read.
Amazing, right? So Intercom has some of the most cohesively written, very nicely written, resources.
Yes.
So Intercom is one major company. The other one, so honestly, I don't like the company too much. But I like their roadmap and the product thinking, which is WhatsApp. Okay. So I don't like the company because they're too slow. Okay, they're too slow in what they build, and their approach is too, I don't know, it's too closed. But then again, building a company of the size, the user base of the size of WhatsApp, which is 50 people, actually less than 50 people, it's
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I don't know how to explain that, right? So few things which I really like about WhatsApp is how they have, like you said, right, how they plan their releases. For example, the end-to-end encryption.
Yes.
That came first, right? That came earlier, then the voice call came, then the video call came, and because they could envision that before we merge with Facebook and hell breaks loose, we need to have these few things in place, right?
Correct.
And how they prioritize their entire roadmap and how they got things out. It's amazing.
Yep.
So WhatsApp, and then there are a bunch of books. I think those bunch of books are already out there. But I believe those books will just help you in orienting your thinking in certain direction, right?
Correct.
Perhaps equip you with certain more jargons to throw.
Correct.
But yeah, they will help you in fine-tuning your thinking a little bit, right?
Again, like this list, like even though this list I spoke of was fairly global, right? There are a lot of product companies in India also that I admire. My only grouse with them is that they don't publish a lot of resources on how they've done what they've done. So like
So one company that comes to my mind is Find, FYND, Find, right?
yes.
So they write quite a lot, and they've started exposing a lot of things that they're doing.
Awesome.
Still a long way to go, but yeah, at least you started writing about it.
Yeah. One company that one Indian company that I think has done fabulously well is Freshworks. But my only problem is that so Freshworks is known and reputed to make acquisitions and turn them into profitable business verticals.
Yes.
But I'm very keen on understanding how they come up with their strategy to acquire a company, and there's no real resource out there on understanding that.
Right.
Them, taking what was Conator, then became Get Hotline, and turning it into Fresh Chat today is a brilliant journey, right? But I can't go anywhere and understand why that happened or how that went down, right?
Correct.
So I think that's one more problem with the Indian ecosystem, that not a lot of people, and we're like, as CleverTap, we're a product company, but we're also part of the problem. We're just too consumed in doing what we're doing to kind of share what we've done.
Right.
So I think that's one more problem that I have with
slowly that I hope this will slowly change people. Once companies are able to attribute that, hey, this helps us in acquiring the right talent.
Correct.
This helps in getting more exposure, getting the right talent, and that saves a lot of bills to the recruiters. I think then people will say, okay, ek post dal dete hain, this will save us ₹1,00,000. So yeah, then people will start posting more frequently, I guess.
Yeah.
Sounds good, Rishen. I think that's pretty much from my side what I wanted to ask you about.
Awesome.
If you have anything to share about which
No, man, I'm genuinely really looking forward to this community, right? So I know for a fact that I have questions that I need answers to.
Go ahead. Why don't you join the community, right?
Yeah, no. So I did sign up. Confirmation email bhi aa gaya. I'm going to now start posting my question. I didn't know it's active yet. I've not checked that. I am tremendously behind my emails. But no, yeah. So the one thing that I would want to say is that of course I'm no standard when it comes to product management, because I've just ventured down this path myself, right? So anything and everything that I've shared today is limited and it's biased by my perspective.
Absolutely.
But what I am happy about is that people like you who have experienced in this space are available to help people like us out there. So I think that's probably the most encouraging thing that I am seeing now towards this space of product management, that there are people to help you, which is good to know.
Great. Yes. Yeah, I mean, so personally, I faced in my time, I faced this problem a lot of times. Yeah. Plus, especially when I started hiring product managers, and I could see that, hey, he's a good talent, but sometimes I can help him, sometimes I just can't help him because I'm also occupied in a lot of other things. Yep. So that's why when the time came, I thought, yeah, this is something which I want to contribute back. Build a community, build a good job board, help product managers, and build a course, which I think you are aware of. Right?
Yes.
So again, the course is it's a shameless plug. Just put it out there because the topic came. So the course, I mean, I faced a lot of these issues, right? Especially when I was training product managers and I was hiring product managers, and especially the kind of questions that people ask me and so on. Personally, I honestly believe that education, qualification, everything will help you, but they are not a necessity. They're not. They're only going to get you a foot in the door. Beyond that, it's your skill. That's it, right? So that's why when I was designing the course, and it took me good 6-8 months to design the course, my entire focus was getting hands-on exposure to the person who is learning, right? Hands-on. I'm not going to say that, hey, you write beautiful PRDs, you are a product manager. That is not how the world works, right? World wants to see, have you built a product?
Exactly.
And can you actually understand when a feature comes out, can you really understand what went behind this feature? Right? When a button is getting placed, just a simple button.
There's so much that happens.
What's behind that, right? Can you understand that? Right? Without, like, in that minute itself, not after 2 days of research.
Yes.
You need that kind of brain, right? You need that kind of thinking. So yeah, so that is a course that is coming out. I've just announced it.
Oh, awesome. I'm surely going to be one of the customers of this course. So when's it expected to be out?
So the course is going to be live in March. In the sense, from March, the first cohort will start.
Awesome.
The course will be formally announced in few days, in the next 3 to 4 days.
Okay. Sorry, my dogs were just crying.
So the course will be out for early access, in the sense people will be able to register and waitlist themselves in the
Yes.
next 3 to 4 days.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty around the corner.
And you'll be sharing this on LinkedIn?
Yes, it'll be on LinkedIn. People who have subscribed to my blog and people who have connected with me, they will get to know about this.
Perfect.
We'll waitlist, and we'll be picking up. We're trying to keep a small cohort.
Okay.
I think one of the bigger, like I said, I'm emphasizing a lot on hands-on learning, right? So a few things that I'm doing differently here. I'll just talk about one or two things here. One is it's not going to be theoretical.
Okay.
Who's just looking for theoretical GAN, don't come here, right? And it's going to be intensive, right? You're going to slog, and you're going to pair it with a developer.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll be paired with an in-house developer, and you'll be building a product.
Okay.
You have to build a product that gets shipped to a store of your liking, or to Product Hunt, and you need to get the users. That's when you become a product manager, right?
Wow.
You don't become a product manager by writing a PRD, not with me.
Awesome.
Right. So that's one of the things that I want to really push hard. And so I'm keeping the cohort very small, just 50 people, 50 students to begin with, so that everybody gets the requisite attention, the requisite hand holding that is needed, right?
No.
And like any product manager would advise, start small. So I'm starting small, right? Yeah. So you'll hear more about the other things that we are doing very differently very soon.
No, perfect. I'm really looking forward to this.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, Rishen. This was fantastic talking. And
Thanks. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Yeah, all the best for your new products that you're launching in CleverTap. And
Thanks.
start writing.
Thanks.
Right.